Hi guys, how you doing? So today is the 22nd of May, 2022, and once again I'm actually here in downtown Sydney doing another Bible video for you guys to edify the church. And today I wanted to talk about debunking the myth of the early church in which they thought that the rapture of the church could happen at any moment. And I want to talk about how that myth is actually completely wrong. And I say this because a lot of, modern day Bible scholars are even still saying, to my surprise, that no Bible prophecies need to happen before the rapture of the church. And, since the early church began, say between 100 to 300 AD, I'm talking about that period, the early church, they had this belief, like I just said on top of my video, that the rapture of the church, could happen at any moment. But notice how I said a thought, a thought doesn't necessarily mean that it's a fact, and when they say that, I honestly don't know what was in their minds, because it doesn't really make any sense. I mean, how can you think that the rapture of the church can occur at any moment without Bible prophecies being fulfilled, especially the prophecy of Israel for a second time, once again becoming a nation? So if you read the prophecy of Hosea chapter 11, verse 11, if you read Psalm 85, I believe, they talk about, Israel becoming a nation for a second time, and in order for the rapture to occur, sorry about the background noise, in order for the rapture to occur, we need to have the fulfillment of Psalm 90 that says that a generation is between 70 and, if a reason by strength, 80 years. We also got to have the fulfillment of the prophecy in which Jesus spoke about, the parable of the fig tree. In other words, in Matthew 24, verses 32 to 34. And, and also another prophecy to take into account is Hosea. The prophet Hosea said in chapter 6, verse 2, that, what God was going to rise, again, Israel after 2 days. In other words, after 2,000 years, when we come back for the millennial kingdom. So, the prophecies that I just mentioned are extremely vital. We're talking about the revival of the nation of Israel for a second time, And so, and there's a lot more other prophecies. I don't want to keep this video for too long, but because I've already done a couple of videos about what needs to happen before the rapture of the church. So if you look on the bottom of my video, maybe 10 videos down from this one, something like that, you will see a picture of me like this, and also one riding my electric scooter, in which I talked about in length about what needs to happen before the rapture of the church. In other words, impending Bible prophecies before the rapture. So can you see how, what the what the disciples, if you like, of the early church was saying? I'm talking about the period between 100 to 300 AD. Was saying, that, the rapture of the church could happen at any moment. It's just a myth, It's kind of like a myth is actually a historical old belief about something which in actual fact doesn't add up, So it's, in other words, it's a false story. It's just a myth, And let's call it for what it is. It's a myth, But my biggest concern is that I just can't believe how, the church age is almost at its 2,000 year mark. It's almost right at the end. We're right at the end of the church age. And Bible scholars are still saying that the rapture of the church can happen at any moment, fully convinced, and actually quoting early Bible scholars from 100 to 300 AD in their thoughts that, like I just mentioned, that they said that the rapture of the church could occur at any moment without any impending Bible prophecies. Can you see how wrong that is? And like I just mentioned before, didn't these early disciples from the early church from 100 to 300 AD Didn't they even think about how Israel needed to become a nation for the second time, especially in 1948? You know, Isaiah spoke, Isaiah chapter 11, verse 11, and Psalm 85. You know, those Bible prophecies, because, you know, the book of Psalms is a book of prophecy, that they speak about how Israel needs to become a nation for a second time. And so, you know, if you were to believe this myth or false story about the early disciples of the early church between 100 to 300 AD, you know, how does that make sense to you? It doesn't, you know. So, but yet I'm hearing modern day Bible scholars being highly influenced, to the point of being ridiculous. You know, being ridiculous. I repeat myself again so that you guys can get it. You know, can you see from what I just said how that myth from early, you know, Bible scholars or disciples is completely wrong and just doesn't add up? And please don't quote them, because you know, when they had that thought, they weren't talking about any Bible prophecies that needed to be fulfilled. You know, there are just so many. I can go on and on and on, and I could make these videos 2 hours long, perhaps. You know, I just wanted to quote just the major ones, if you like, but there are just so many Bible prophecies. For example, like I said in one of my videos, that, you know, before the rapture of the church, we need the fulfillment of Isaiah 17.1, which is brewing. It's coming. Israel right now is having military drills. I heard on the news together with America. They are trying to, in order to go and bombard the Iran's nuclear facilities. Good on them, you know, because you know, Israel is a nation of God, and they need to protect themselves, you know. And we as Christians, we support Israel 100%. You know, the Jewish people are our brothers and sisters in Christ, and you know, and you can tell by this drill that you know, eventually Russia is going to get pissed off at this, and you know, when, I'm not saying if, but when Israel, because I don't have a choice, goes and destroys all these nuclear facilities that Iran has, and good on them, Russia is going to get pissed off, because, you know, Iran is going to say to Russia, hey, you know, how about you support us? You know, we've been supporting you for quite a while. And this is going to lead to the Ezekiel 38-39 war, which belongs in this dispensation of the church age, and not the trib, not for that matter the millennial kingdom. I explained in my previous video before about the rapture done too. Check them out as to why Ezekiel 38-39 belongs in the dispensation of the church age. Basically, if you were to put Ezekiel 38-39 into the trib or the tribulation period, it wouldn't work, because you know, the tribulation period will get longer, and it will only supposed to last 7 years. And how can God glorify himself during the trib with this Gog and Magog war, or in other words, Ezekiel 38-39 of the Russia and all its allies versus Israel, when God is actually allowing the Antichrist to rule? So it just doesn't make any sense. And then it doesn't make any sense for the millennial kingdom either, because as soon as we come back with Jesus to reign for the 1,000 years, we're going to have the Battle of Armageddon, then the judgment of the sheep and the goats, and then at the end we'll have another Gog and Magog war at the back end of the millennial kingdom. But that's a completely Gog and Magog from this Ezekiel 38-39. So it's got to happen in this dispensation. Just remember what Jesus said in Matthew 24, chapter 35. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words will not pass away. Clearly meaning that come might, no matter what, every single Bible prophecy will come to pass. So, you know, so I just wanted to do this quick video, you know, just debunking that myth, you know, of the early Christian church. I'm hearing big time Bible scholars out there on YouTube with thousands upon thousands and thousands of subscribers saying that, you know, nothing needs to happen before the rapture of the church. When, you know, in actual fact, you know, we got Psalm 90 in the way, we got the parable of the fig tree, we got Isaiah 17.1, we got Ezekiel 38-39, we got the signing of Daniel's covenant. The tribulation period cannot start until Israel signs the covenant, as for Daniel 9:27. As per Jeremiah 30 verse 7 and as per Isaiah 15 28. Those three prophecies are in alignment with as per Daniel 9:27 or similar, if you like. You know, we got quite a few Bible prophecies to be fulfilled before the rapture now. Some people are saying that perhaps Psalm 83, that Bible prophecy, could possibly be fulfilled maybe when Israel goes and bombards Iran's nuclear facilities. I say will because it will happen. Israel doesn't have a choice. The longer they leave it, they're just going to allow Iran to further progress with the uranium enrichments and to, amass nuclear weapons. I'm pretty sure that they have them already, in their bunkers and things like that, because don't forget that Russia has been helping Iran with their nuclear program. So I'm pretty sure they have them, but it's up to Israel now to go and, extinguish once and for all that threat. So, and that will very soon, and I strongly believe they will lead to Ezekiel 38, 39. But getting back to Psalm 83, Psalm 83 was already fulfilled. Now, it's hard to tell whether it was fulfilled when Israel became a nation in 1948, or for that matter, in the 1967 Arab and Israeli Six-Day War. So if you read the nations that were, as part of that war, in the Bible, if you like, it's more likely that it was either 1948 or the fulfillment in 1948 or the 1967 war, but not the 1973 because, in 1967, that Six-Day War was a precursor to the Yom Kippur War in 73. So forget about the 73 war. Psalm 83 either belongs to 1948 or the 1967 Six-Day War. It's one of the two, but it's hard to tell because when you read the nations, it's pretty much similar. So, but that prophecy in Psalm 83 has already been fulfilled. So. What we got in front right now is, like I just said, before the rapture of the church, we got the fulfillment of, Psalm 90, Matthew 24, chapters 32 to 34. In other words, the parable of the fig tree. We got Isaiah 17.1. We got Ezekiel 38, 39. We got Daniel's covenant in 9:27, if you like. So until that's done, I wouldn't even think about the rapture of the church. Especially, I would probably start thinking about the rapture after Ezekiel 38, 39, because then, Israel is going to be signing that covenant because that will be a peace then. But the good thing about Ezekiel 38, 39 is that once God glorifies himself in that war, there will be a lot more people converting into Christianity because they will see how God delivered Israel. And there will be more believers, and that's a good thing, So there will be more Christians going out at the rapture of the church. So, but, I wouldn't even think about the rapture right now. We got Bible prophecies in front, and if I can just say to Bible scholars, think a little bit, they say these days that common sense, is going out the window. I just think that thinking is also going out the window as well out there, because how can you think a myth, okay, of the early church, right? How those disciples or Bible scholars were saying that, that they thought that the rapture would happen at any moment without even considering Bible prophecies, especially those important Bible prophecies in Psalm 90 and Isaiah 11, if you like, or chapter 11, verse 11, saying that Israel needs to become a nation for the second time. Can you see how it doesn't add up? It's just a myth, a thought. A thought is not necessarily a fact. So, obviously, they have been proven wrong, because if you take into consideration what the prophet Hosea said, what Hosea said in 6:2, that God was going to rise Israel after the second day, meaning after 2,000 years. So you see how that doesn't make any sense at all, what these early Bible scholars were saying. But for some reason, for the last 2,000 years, they've been influencing the church right now. Like, there's Bible scholars out there that the three major ones that I heard, with thousands of subscribers out there saying that, yeah, nothing needs to happen for the rapture of the church, no Bible prophecy in front, which that is ridiculous, because the Bible itself is a book of prophecies, past, present, and future. So future means that we got pending Bible prophecies. So how can you say that no Bible prophecies need to happen before the rapture of the church? That's completely ridiculous, and it just doesn't add up. So I hope that with this video I have debunked for you the myth, okay? A myth is a false belief going back in history. So that's all it is. It's just a false belief that didn't take into consideration vital Bible prophecies that are yet pending and need to be fulfilled before the rapture of the church. So, I just don't want to keep hearing Bible scholars, the rapture of the church can happen at any moment. Like I just said, that's been debunked now with this video. I know that some Bible scholars will probably call me heretic, and they're going to be probably throwing oranges at me, or really, you want to call me a heretic? Like, do you actually think? Do you actually read the Bible? Do you know that the Bible has prophecies in front before the rapture of the church? So, I don't get it. I just don't get how for almost 2,000 years, this myth or this false belief from early Bible scholars or disciples has somehow, for the last 2,000 years, influenced Bible scholars even to this day today. Like I said before, there's pretty much Bible scholars out there on YouTube saying that nothing or no Bible prophecies need to happen before the rapture of the church. We just debunk that, and it's all it is just a myth. So I hope that people can think about things. Look, not all of us know the Bible 100%. I'm still studying it, but one of the things that you got to think, especially about end time events, is when you compare end time events, you got to view it through the lens of end time Bible prophecies, and think to yourself, okay, with everything that's happening now that I'm watching on telly, what end time Bible prophecies could be fulfilled out of all these? You bet, with Israel, with all the problems that Israel is having with Russia, with Iran, Syria, the terrorists, Hamas, and Hezbollah in Lebanon, you can bet that these prophecies of Isaiah 17.1 and Ezekiel 38:39 will come to fruition. No doubt about it. And they belong in this dispensation of the church age. And I just explained to you why, So, that's all I wanted to say with this video. I hope that I have edified the church in some way. I'll do these videos for your benefit. So, let me think. I think there was something else that I wanted to say, but I just can't remember. It'll probably come back to me later. But look, I might end this video. I know it's already 80 minutes long, but just remember that, the early church, their thoughts about the rapture happening at any moment, it was just that, a thought, not a fact. They didn't say to you, hey, there's a whole heap of Bible prophecies, especially the rebirth as a nation for a second time. Like I said before, which was prophesied in Isaiah 11:11 and Psalm 85. And here Hosea said in 6:2 that, God will, deliver or bring his kingdom back to Israel, at the end of 2,000 years. In other words, at the beginning of the millennial kingdom, when we come back with Jesus to reign for the millennial. So, that's all I wanted to say with this video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you guys later.